Former President Donald Trump's family business was convicted of criminal tax fraud, with a jury in New York finding the Trump Organization engaged in an off-the-books compensation scheme to pay some executives in car leases, apartments, and cash. As federal funding for the pandemic response dries up, Americans without health insurance risk being left footing the bill for coronavirus tests and treatments. China bids farewell to ex-leader Jiang and his era of relative openness. Paying tribute to President Jiang Zemin, China's leader Xi Jinping urged the nation to rally around himself. Ukraine used drones to strike an oil depot in Russia, a day after Kyiv hit two military bases hundreds of miles inside Russia. A senior Iranian official said this weekend that Iran had abolished the morality police known as the Guidance Patrol, a prime target of protests that have been raging across the country. Elon Musk wants to test brain implants in humans. Neuralink, a company owned by Musk, demonstrated last night how its implant reportedly allowed monkeys to move computer cursors with their brains. Musk, who has claimed that such a device would make computer control possible for people with paralysis, predicted that human testing could begin in as little as 6 months. But any human trial would first need to be approved by the FDA. Several other companies over the last 2 decades have obtained approval to study similar devices, but so far none have been marketed commercially. The Senate passed legislation to avert a rail strike. A bipartisan group of senators voted to impose a labor agreement between rail companies and their workers, moving with uncommon speed to avert a potential holiday season strike. The imposed agreement includes a 24% increase in wages for rail workers, but a measure to add 7 days of paid medical leave for rail workers failed. U.S. job growth remains strong, defying Fed's rate strategy. Employers added 263,000 workers in November, even as some industries showed signs of a slowdown. Wage growth exceeded expectations. The EU agreed to a $60 a barrel price cap on Russian oil. Russian officials have repeatedly threatened to cut off oil exports in response. But as of today, there were no signs on markets that the country had started to withdraw its oil from global markets. Some Chinese cities eased COVID restrictions, signaling a willingness by the government to address the cause of nationwide protests. But China's low vaccine rates leave it particularly vulnerable. Convict, convict, criminal, criminal, fraud, fraud, engage in, off the books, compensation, compensation, scheme, scheme, response, response, dry up, dry up, bid farewell, bid farewell, pay tribute to, pay tribute to, rally around, rally around, drone, drone, depot, depot, senior, senior, abolish, abolish, morality, morality, patrol, patrol, raging, raging, implant, implant, demonstrate, demonstrate, cursor, cursor, paralysis, paralysis, trial, trial, commercially, commercially, avert, avert, rail, rail, strike, strike, impose, impose, wage, wage, defy, defy, strategy, strategy, slow down, slow down, exceed, exceed, withdraw, withdraw, ease, ease, restriction, restriction, willingness, willingness, vulnerable, vulnerable,